Alright, here we have a map view of the shoreline down around Fort Fisher. And here we have the shoreline, here's land, here's the ocean out here. And we have a situation that's rather unique at Fort Fisher, and particularly right near the riggings, where we have an outcrop of coquina rock here along the shoreline. And that is the only natural outcrop of rock along the East Coast from the Chesapeake Bay down to Miami, Florida. Now, what happens in this situation and what causes some problems is, in general, we have sand movement along the beach in this area as the waves come in and out from more or less the north down to the south. Now, as that sand is moving along, eventually it's going to run into this coquina that's not only right along the shoreline, but also is found out here in outcrops in the offshore waters. Well, what that tends to do with this sand is deflect at least some of that sand out into the offshore waters. Now, when that occurs, well, our waves are still coming in here around the riggings. It's going to pick up sand, and that sand is going to continue to move. So we're in an area right in here where we're getting a high rate of erosion. We're not getting a supply of sand, or a limited supply of sand, because it's being deflected offshore. Waves are still coming in, picking up the sand, and moving it farther down the coast. Once it hits the rocks down here at Fort Fisher, same thing happens. Those rocks tend to deflect some of that sand into the offshore waters. And you'll notice on the south side of the rocks at Fort Fisher, there's a big embayment in there, and that embayment was caused by those rocks and the deflection of sand. Again, the waves are still coming in here, they'll pick up the sand, and they tend to erode out in this area. Now, at the area of the riggings, what we have is the sand being eroded out in that area. To remedy that, there have been some temporary sandbags put in front of the riggings. Now, those sandbags are going to be removed fairly soon. And when those sandbags are removed, there's literally no protection for the buildings. There's no dune line in front of those structures. With those sandbags being taken out, there's no protection for those buildings. So what we should see is that shoreline continue to cut back, and it's going to threaten the buildings in that area. There have been proposals to move these structures to the other side of the road. That hasn't occurred yet. That's probably still in legal battles, and we'll see what happens there. But if nothing is done here, those structures will be eventually condemned, and they will go into the water. There's no question about that, just from the natural setup that you have here.